Welcome back to Raptor-One.
Raptor-One, Voyagers of the Stars. Chapter 26, The Second Note. The Fortress in Orbit. The second radiance pulse drew them toward a world smothered in law and steel. The planet's surface was veiled by Alliance control, city grids blazing with white light, orbital stations bristling with weapons, and patrols threading the sky in perfect patterns. At its heart hung the fortress, a vast citadel of alloy and glass, tethered to the planet by spires like chains. The radiant's faint glow pulsed beneath it, buried deep in the fortress's foundations. Kael whistled low at the sight. They built their throne on top of it. Of course they did. Juno's hands trembled over her shard. They're feeding on it, dulling it, twisting its voice into silence. Lyra felt it too, the radiance note muffled, pressed under rules it hadn't been meant to carry. The hollow inside her rang with pressure, as though the weight of 1,000 laws pressed against her chest. The Alliance Doctrine. Their comms lit before they even broke orbit. A clipped, metallic voice spoke with absolute authority. Unregistered vessel. You enter Alliance jurisdiction. Submit all shards for stabilization under the concordant law of order. Refusal will be met with neutralization. Kael spat. Neutralization. Always so polite when they mean execution. Lyra muted the channel. They're not stabilizing shards. They're chaining them. That fortress is both prison and court. Juno's eyes glistened with fear and fury. If the Radiant is bound there, it can't sing. It will die under silence. The plan. They couldn't fight their way in, not against a fortress with a fleet hanging above it. Kael leaned against the console, arms crossed. So, what's the plan? I've got bullets enough to make noise, but not enough to win a war. Lyra's hollow pulsed with the weight of choice. She thought of the oath, of the first flame's gift, of the shard of ash still burning against her skin. We don't storm the gates, she said. We walk through them. If this fortress is a court, then we stand trial. Kael stared at her like she'd grown a second head. Trial? You want to hand ourselves over? Juno's shard pulsed bright, her voice trembling with conviction. Not to surrender, to expose them. If the Radiant is chained under law, then law is the chain we break. The trial of voices. They landed under escort. The fortress swallowed Raptor-One in its steel jaws, docking clamps closing like manacles. The halls inside were bright, sterile, echoing with the footsteps of soldiers who carried themselves with absolute certainty. At the center stood a vast chamber, part courtroom, part cathedral. A crystalline dais glowed faintly beneath the floor, the Radiant, bound in silence, its light bleeding through cracks in the alloy. An Alliance arbiter presided above them, robes of silver etched with the glyphs of law. His voice carried through the chamber like judgment itself. You are accused of unlawful possession of resonant shards, destabilization of secured systems, and defiance of concordant authority. Speak your defense. Kael's jaw flexed. I'd rather speak with my rifle. Lyra silenced him with a look. She stepped forward, hollow aching, shard of ash pulsing. We carry shards not to destabilize, but to endure. You call them error. We call them memory. You build prisons of law. We kindle flames of survival. If you silence the Radiant, you silence not error, but life itself. The chamber trembled. The Radiant's muffled note pulsed louder, echoing her words. Breaking the chain. The arbiter's voice pressed back, certainty cold as iron. Law is stability. Without it, There is only chaos. You speak of memory, but memory is error. The radiant silence is proof of order. You will submit. Juno cried out, clutching her shard. No. The radiant isn't silent. It's suffocated. She stepped onto the dais, her shard blazing. The crystal beneath her feet pulsed, cracks widening. Kael drew his rifle, aiming at the Arbiter. One word, and I'll end him. Lyra raised her wrist, her voice sharp. No, this isn't his courtroom anymore. It's the Radiance. She pressed the shard of ash against the floor. Her hollow flared open, carrying the weight of ash, grief, fire, and vow. The Radiance light burst upward, flooding the chamber. The Radiant freed. The fortress shook. Chains of alloy split as the Radiant surged, its voice breaking free of law. The Arbiter staggered, robes burning under the light. The autumn's certainty pressed faintly even here, but the Radiant's note cut through it, defiant and bright. Law does not silence. Law remembers. Error is not memory. Memory endures. The Arbiter fled. Soldiers fell back. The fortress itself trembled, its foundations undone by the Radiant's rebirth. The second flame had been kindled. The gift of the law. From the Radiant's core rose a fragment, sharp, clear, glowing faint white. It drifted into Lyra's hands. Juno whispered, awe soft in her voice. The oath shard, born of chains, broken by truth. Kael smirked despite himself. Not bad for a trial. Lyra held the shard close, feeling its rhythm join the ember and ash shards. Her hollow pulse steady, scarred but stronger. Toward the third. As they returned to Raptor-One, alarms blared across the fortress. Alliance voices shouted through comms, orders fracturing into panic. Autumn signatures flickered at the edge of range, drawn to the light of another Radiant freed. Kael slid into his seat, grinning with sharp defiance. That's 2 lit. 10 left. Juno's eyes burned bright. The constellation is listening. The song is growing. Lyra's voice was steady as she gripped the yoke. Then we carry it to the next. The map shifted. The third Radiant pulsed, a note entwined with a dying star. The Chamber of Judgment. The fortress's courtroom was vast, sterile, and suffocating. Bright white light poured from panels above, but it was too clean, too sharp, designed not to illuminate, but to expose. The dais of glass glowed faintly beneath their feet, the Radiant's pulse muffled beneath layers of alloy and law. At the center stood the Arbiter, elevated upon a platform of alloyed stone. His robes were silver, etched with glyphs of doctrine, each one a law codified into resonance. His eyes shone faintly with implant light. Carriers of unlicensed shards, his voice boomed, carrying both air and bone. You are accused of destabilization, heresy against concordant law, and the possession of instruments that belong to the Alliance and no other. Speak your defense. Kael muttered darkly at Lyra's side. I've heard firing squads sound friendlier. Lyra silenced him with a look. Her hollow ached as the Arbiter's words pressed against her, but the shard of ash on her wrist burned faintly in reply. The Arbiter's case. The Arbiter raised a hand, and his voice sharpened. Resonance unbound leads only to chaos. Choirs fracture. Memory conflicts. Entire systems have been lost to carriers who mistook power for freedom. The concordant law was forged from that truth. Shards must be stabilized, subsumed into the order of the Alliance, or else silenced. He gestured to the Radiant beneath the floor. Here lies proof. Once wild, once dangerous, now tamed. Its light fuels the fortress without consuming it. Its song is bound within law, where it cannot wound the galaxy again. His gaze cut to Lyra. You speak of endurance. You speak of memory. But memory is error. Error breeds chaos. Only law endures. Only silence protects. The chamber echoed with his certainty, a silence thicker than sound. The defense. Juno stepped forward, her shard clutched tight, voice trembling but clear. You don't protect. You smother. That radiant isn't safe. It's suffocating. Can't you feel it? Its song isn't gone. It's crying out. The Arbiter's implants glowed brighter. A cry of error. We have quieted it. That is mercy. Kael barked a laugh, bitter and raw. Mercy? You've turned a star into a prisoner and called it justice. If you can't handle a song without chaining it, maybe you're the weak ones. Lyra lifted her wrist, the shard of ash burning against her skin. Her voice shook, but she made no effort to hide it. You call us error because we fracture, because we break. But look around you, Arbiter. What endures is not silence. It's scar. It's ash. It's memory carried forward. The radiant isn't law's prisoner. It's law's proof that silence doesn't last. The bond surged hot. Kael's fury sharpening her words, Juno's faith giving them breath. The radiant's answer. The floor cracked. Fissures spread across the dais as the radiant's pulse rose, no longer muffled but pushing, pressing against its chains. Light leaked upward, fractured but insistent. The Arbiter staggered, robes flaring with resonance. No, this is forbidden. You are destabilizing order itself. The Radiant's voice burst through the bond, raw and defiant. Law does not silence. Law remembers. Memory is not error. Memory endures. The courtroom shook. The chains binding the Radiant shattered, shards of alloy falling like broken verdicts. The oath shard. From the Radiant's heart rose a fragment of crystal, sharp, clear, glowing with the light of law reclaimed. It floated into Lyra's hands, pulsing steady. Juno's eyes filled with awe. The oath shard, born of chains, freed by truth. Kael smirked despite himself, rifle still ready. Some trial. Jury still out, but I think we won. Lyra held the shard close. It pulsed in rhythm with the ember and ash shards, imperfect voices woven together into something steadier. The fracture above. But as the Radiant's light flared free, alarm screamed through the fortress. The Alliance's law fractured into chaos, voices shouting across comms, orders breaking under fear. Soldiers fled the chamber, their certainty undone by the Radiant's rebirth. And beyond the fortress, autumn signatures blinked into range. Red arcs aligned with terrifying precision, drawn to the flame they could not allow to endure. Kael slid into the gunner's chair with a feral grin. Well, guess the prosecution's resting its case. Juno's shard pulsed bright, her voice trembling with both fear and conviction. The constellation is listening. The song is growing. Lyra gripped the yoke, steady despite the ache in her hollow. Then we carry it to the next. The map shifted. The third radiant pulsed, a note entwined with a dying star. The path to fire. The constellation pulled them onward, the map rearranging itself after the second radiant's rebirth. 11 points still glowed. One in particular pulsed brighter than the rest, a jagged rhythm, wild and unstable. Its glow was not steady like the first flame, nor bound like the second. It flickered erratically, on the edge of vanishing. Juno's voice was hushed as she traced it with trembling fingers. The third radiant is bound to a star that's dying. Kael leaned over the console, scowling at the readings. That isn't a radiant. That's a furnace waiting to blow. Lyra's hollow pulsed, aching with the rhythm of the unstable star. It's both. If we don't light it, it will collapse. And if it collapses... Juno finished for her, voice tight. It will take half this system with it. Descent into the inferno. The system's sun was swollen, its surface boiling with storms vast enough to swallow worlds. Its outer layers belched plasma into space, forming rivers of fire that bent under their own gravity. Orbiting close to its surface was a shard station, broken, half-melted, its structure clinging to the edge of collapse. The radiant's glow pulsed from within, entwined with the star itself, as though its life had been bound to the sun's dying fire. Kael muttered, "Figures. If I were going to hide something worth killing for, I'd bury it in a star." Juno shook her head. "Not hidden. Sacrificed. The radiant was tied here on purpose." Lyra gripped the yoke. "Then we free it, before the star consumes it." The descent through fire. Raptor-One threaded down into the corona, the veil straining against the sun's fury. Plasma waves slammed against their shields, each impact shaking the hull like the fist of a god. Kael's hands danced across controls, diverting power between weapons and shields. "We're cooking alive in here. If that radiant doesn't wake fast, we'll burn before the autumn even show." Juno's shard glowed faintly, her hum steady despite the sweat beading her skin. "It's not asleep. It's screaming. We just can't hear it over the star." Lyra's hollow thrummed with the radiant's desperate rhythm. She opened the bond wider, letting the fire surge through her, ash and ember burning against the weight of the star. The trial of flame. The radiant stirred. From the shard station, light erupted, coalescing into a guardian like the one they had faced before, but this one was pure fire, its form molten and shifting. Its voice pressed into their skulls, hot enough to blister thought. "This flame devours. This flame consumes. To kindle it, you must hold fire without burning. Prove you can endure the heat of collapse." The station groaned. The star belched another flare. The cavern of plasma around them twisted into a crucible. Kael snarled, "We can't fight that." Juno whispered, eyes locked on the fire guardian. "We don't fight. We carry." Carrying the star. The guardian's fire poured into them through the bond. Lyra's hollow blazed, searing hot, filling her lungs with the breath of a collapsing sun. She screamed, but she did not close. Kael's rage anchored it, giving the fire edges instead of chaos. Juno's faith shaped it, humming a note that cooled the heat enough to bear. Lyra's hollow absorbed it, scarred space holding the pain without shattering. The fire burned, but it did not consume. The guardian's voice softened, the flame around it dimming to steady glow. Flame carried. Collapse endured. The star sings. The star reborn. The radiant blazed, its pulse rising in harmony with the dying star. For a heartbeat, Lyra thought the sun itself might stabilize, but instead, the radiant sang through its collapse, turning destruction into a chord of endurance. The star flared, then calmed. Its death postponed, its light steadied by the radiant's song. From its core rose a shard, molten and glowing gold, as if forged directly from the star's heart. It drifted into Lyra's hands, hot but not burning. Juno's voice was reverent. The solar shard, born of collapse, carried through fire. Kael let out a low whistle. 3 down. 9 to go. and I'm already cooked. Lyra held the shard close, its glow pulsing with the ember, ash, and oath shards. Her hollow thrummed, no longer just scar but furnace. The red horizon. But as the radiant flared free, autumn's certainty pressed in. Red signatures bloomed across the system's edge, ships aligning in precise arcs around the star. Their message thundered through bone. Error cannot endure. Fire is chaos. Chaos will be erased. The sun's surface stirred again under their presence, storms raging hotter. Kael slammed his fist against the console. Here we go again. Lyra's hollow ached, but the solar shard pulsed hot against her skin. She tightened her grip on the yoke, her voice steady. Let them come. The star sings, and so do we. Raptor-One turned toward the next radiant, the flames of the third still burning in their bond. The radiant's cry. The third radiant burned bright now, its song woven into the unstable star. For a heartbeat, the system seemed to breathe easier, storms calming, the surface glowing steady instead of writhing. But the light did not go unnoticed. Red arcs bled across the edges of the system, autumn ships snapping into formation with chilling precision. Dozens became scores, each signature pulsing in the same rhythm as the silencer gate far away. Their certainty pressed hard, filling marrow with commands that were not words but axioms. Flame is error. Error is chaos. Chaos will be erased. The bond screamed under the pressure. Kael slammed a fist against the console. Here it comes. Fire and silence. Raptor-One skimmed the surface of the dying star, its veil stretched thin against rivers of plasma. Autumn ships descended in flawless arcs, their red pulses bending gravity itself. Kael swung the cannons toward them. We can't outrun a net this tight. Juno clutched her shard, her voice faint. Then we sing through it. The radiant's flames surged in response, its song burning louder, shaking the autumn's formation. For the first time, their arcs faltered. Their certainty wavered, lines fracturing where none should exist. Lyra's hollow throbbed. The shard of ash and the ember shard pulsed together, joined by the solar shard's molten rhythm. She opened the bond wide. Kael, strike where they break. Juno, keep the song steady. I'll carry the fire. The battle at the corona. The autumn swarmed. Beams of certainty lashed across the void, striking like blades that carried not light but erasure. Shields faltered. Kael answered with fire. The cannons roared, shots carving into perfect arcs, breaking them into jagged lines. That's right. Bleed for me. Juno sang through the shard, her hum weaving into the radiant's song, steadying it. Her voice was thin but unyielding, keeping the star's fury from collapsing back into chaos. Lyra carried both, the hollow opening wide enough to hold fire and grief, ash and memory, all braided into one. Through her, the radiant's flame pulsed into Raptor-One, turning the ship itself into an ember of the star. The autumn's fracture. Certainty clashed with fire. The autumn pressed their doctrine into the bond. Order is fact. Fire is error. Error cannot endure. But the radiant sang back through Lyra's hollow. Fire endures. Fire remembers. Flame is not error. Flame is life. The clash of voices tore the battlefield apart. Autumn ships stuttered, their formations unraveling. Kael's shots cut them down, one after another, red eyes snuffed in the star's blaze. The price of fire. But victory had a cost. Each pulse of the radiance flame burned through the braid, searing them. Kael's vision blurred, his hands trembling on the controls. Juno's song cracked, blood dripping from her nose as the shard seared her palms. Lyra's hollow ached like it would tear open and consume her whole. Still they endured. Still they carried. When the last autumn ship fell, its hull burning in the star's corona, the battlefield fell silent, save for the radiant's steady song. The solar gift. The radiant's light softened, its flames dimming into something steady, calm. From its core, the solar shard pulsed brighter, settling into rhythm with ash, ember, and oath. Lyra pressed her hand against it, breath ragged. 3 lit. 9 to go. Kael slumped in his chair, muttering, "If the next one's in a black hole, I'm walking." Juno wiped her blood away, smiling faintly. The constellation sings louder. The song is growing. The red horizon. But even as the radiant calmed, the horizon did not. Beyond the system, autumn certainty pulsed again, not from ships this time, but from something larger, deeper, a shadow on the edge of the void. The silencer gate had felt the flame, and it was watching. Lyra's hollow ached, but she gripped the yoke steady, then let it watch. The song isn't done. Raptor-One turned toward the next radiant. The call of the deep. After the fury of the star, the constellation pulled them into silence. The map's glow shifted to a dim blue point, faint and patient, pulsing like a heartbeat beneath water. Juno leaned over the display, her voice soft. The 4th radiant. It sleeps beneath an ocean world. Kael grimaced. Great. We go from fire to drowning. Lyra's hollow thrummed with the radiant's pulse. Slow, steady, heavy. She felt it drag against her chest like pressure from unseen depths. It's not fire this time. It's weight. The weight of silence. The water world. The planet spread below them, endless ocean, its surface a mirror broken only by storms. No landmasses broke the horizon. Lightning flickered across black waves that rolled for thousands of kilometers without pause. The radiant's light pulsed faint beneath the surface, deep enough that their instruments struggled to follow. Kael scowled at the readings. Pressure down there could crush cities. How the hell do we even reach it? Juno's shard pulsed faintly in her hand, glowing with cool light. Not with machines. With the bond. It wants us to descend. Lyra set the course. Then we dive. Into the depths. Raptor-One broke the surface with a shudder, the veil flickering as the ocean swallowed them whole. The water was dark, endless, heavy. The deeper they sank, the tighter the pressure grew, not just on the hull, but on their chests, their minds. The bond strained. Kael's fury dimmed, Juno's hum faltered, Lyra's hollow pressed inward until she thought it might collapse entirely. Shapes moved in the deep, colossal shadows, drifting slow and silent, their forms indistinct but massive. Their presence pressed against the bond with weight that was not malice, but patience, like mountains that had learned to swim. Juno whispered, voice shaking, "Guardians, they've been waiting here for centuries." The trial of silence. At last, the radiant appeared. A vast crystalline tower rose from the ocean floor, dim and muted, its glow faint beneath layers of water. But no guardian of flame awaited them this time. Instead, Silence itself wrapped around the Radiant. The bond stilled. Voices dimmed. Even thought felt slow, muffled. A voice pressed into them, not loud, not fierce, but deep and patient. This is silence. This is weight. To kindle the Radiant, you must descend without breaking. Carry the depth. Hold the stillness. Endure. The water pressed harder. The silence deepened. Kael's breath came ragged. I can't fight it. Juno's voice trembled. Don't fight. Let it in. Let it settle. Lyra's hollow throbbed, aching with the silence. For a moment, she thought it would consume her entirely. But she remembered the oath, the ash, the ember, the solar fire. She opened wide, letting the silence fill her, not to erase, but to carry. The stillness carried. The braid held. Kael's fury quieted, shaped into steel rather than fire. Juno's hum stilled, turning soft, steady, patient. Lyra's hollow opened, becoming space wide enough to hold the silence without shattering. The Radiant pulsed brighter, its light growing through the water. The silence lifted, not gone, but transformed into something steady, enduring. Silence endured. Depth carried. The ocean sings. The gift of depth. The Radiant flared, its light streaming upward through the ocean, breaking the surface in a pillar that splits storm and sky. From its core drifted a shard of deep blue crystal, heavy in Lyra's hands but steady. It pulsed with the rhythm of the depths, slow, patient, immovable. Juno whispered, awed, the abyss shard, the gift of silence. Kael exhaled, shivering. I'll take fire over drowning any day. Lyra held the shard close. It joined ash, ember, oath, and solar, pulsing in rhythm with the others. Her hollow thrummed with weight, not ache, steady, strong. The storm above. As Raptor-One rose through the ocean, breaking back into the storm-swept skies, autumn's signatures bloomed on the horizon. Red arcs circled the planet, their certainty pressing down like a storm of its own. Silence is not song. Silence is fact. Error will be erased. The storm raged harder, lightning tearing the sky. The Radiant's light burned through the clouds, defiant. Lyra's voice was steady as she gripped the yoke. 4 lit. 8 remain. Let them come, we'll carry the depth. The storm breaks. The Radiant's voice rose through the ocean, shattering centuries of silence. Its light pierced the waters, split the storm above, and tore open the sky in a pillar of blue fire. But the autumn came with the light. Red arcs bent across the horizon, their formations too precise, too perfect, an answer to the Radiant's defiance. They moved as one body, their certainty pressing into marrow, their message cold and undeniable. Silence is fact. Error will be erased. Lightning split the sky as the first wave descended. War in the tempest. Raptor-One burst from the ocean's surface into chaos, rain pounding the hull, thunder shaking the air. Autumn fighters tore through the storm, their beams cutting paths of red fire across the sky. Kael was already at the guns, teeth bared. Now this is flying. He fired through the storm, bolts of plasma carving into red arcs. The autumn faltered but regrouped instantly, their formations reforming even as their ships fell. Juno pressed her shard to her chest, humming in rhythm with the Radiant song. The abyss shard pulsed on Lyra's wrist, heavy and steady, its weight grounding them against the autumn's certainty. Lyra gripped the yoke, the storm raging around her. We don't outgun them. We use the storm. Ride it. Riding the lightning. The ship dove between clouds, lightning flashing so close the hull shook with static. Autumn fighters pursued, their red beams struggling to track Raptor-One through the storm's chaos. Kael fired bursts into their blind spots, laughing raggedly through clenched teeth. They can't calculate thunder. Juno cried out as the autumn's certainty pressed harder into the bond. Order endures. Error drowns. Her voice cracked, but she kept singing, weaving the radiant's deep note through her song. The ocean itself seemed to answer, waves rising, storms raging louder, as if the planet itself carried the radiant's defiance. Lyra opened her hollow wide, carrying both storm and silence. The abyss shard pulsed in rhythm with the tempest, grounding her even as the autumn pressed harder. Breaking the net. The autumn adjusted, their formations curving into a perfect net, red lines tightening around Raptor-One. Kael's hands shook on the controls. They're closing us in. Lyra narrowed her eyes, hollow burning steady. Not if we break their rhythm. She opened the bond wider, letting the radiant's silence pour through them. The abyss shard pulsed deep, slow, steady, too slow for the autumn's perfect calculations. The storm surged in answer, lightning tearing through the net. Autumn ships faltered, their precision undone by silence they couldn't measure. Kael's cannons roared, tearing holes in the fractured arcs. The net collapsed. Autumn ships spiraled into the ocean, swallowed by waves. The Radiant's triumph. The Radiant's light blazed brighter, splitting the storm entirely. The ocean stilled for the first time in centuries, reflecting the pillar of blue fire into the sky. The autumn's certainty faltered, their remaining ships retreating to the edge of the system. Their message echoed faint and bitter. Error endures. Fact will return. The storm quieted, leaving Raptor-One hovering above the ocean's mirror. The abyss shard pulsed steady in Lyra's hand, the bond still scarred but stronger. Toward the fifth. Kael slumped back in his chair, breathless. If every Radiant comes with a war, we're not going to make it to 12. Juno wiped blood from her lip, her eyes burning despite her exhaustion. Then we'll make sure every flame we light sings louder than the last. Lyra stared at the map, where the fifth Radiant pulsed faintly from a drifting station in the void. Her hollow throbbed, but the abyss shard's weight steadied her. 4 flames lit. 8 remain, she said softly, and the constellation isn't done with us yet. The drifting tomb. The fifth Radiant called from a derelict shard station that drifted alone in the void. No planet orbited near it. No star warmed it. Once, the station had been a hub for resonance, its latticework corridors singing with choirs that guided travelers across the constellation. Now it was a husk. Its hull was scarred by micrometeorite impacts and autumn fire, its lights long dead. As Raptor-One approached, Lyra's hollow thrummed with unease. The Radiant's pulse was faint, muffled, like a voice trapped behind a wall. Kael muttered, scanning the wreck. I don't like it. Feels like a coffin waiting to close. Juno's shard glowed dimly. Not a coffin. An echo. Echoes in the dark. They docked with difficulty, hatches warped, systems half-dead. Inside, the station's corridors stretched empty, walls of glass and alloy reflecting their lights. Yet they were not alone. Voices whispered through the bond. Faint, fragmented, broken. Not words, but the remnants of songs carried by those who had died here. Juno pressed her hands to her ears, though the sound was inside her skull. They're trapped. Fragments of memory, caught between silence and song. Lyra's hollow ached, opening wide to the voices. They pressed against her chest, heavy and cold. Kael drew his rifle. Then let's set them free. The Chamber of Echoes. At the station's center they found it, the fifth radiant. It was different from the others. Not a towering spire, not a shard rooted in earth or star. It was broken, fractured into dozens of floating pieces, suspended in the air of the central chamber. Each fragment pulsed faintly, light flickering in uneven rhythm. Around it drifted shadows of resonance, echoes of those who had carried it once. They turned toward the crew, voices overlapping into a chorus of grief. We were memory. We were fracture. We were lost. Carry us, or be lost with us. The trial of memory. The radiant demanded not endurance of flame or silence, but memory itself. Echoes pressed against them, visions of past battles, faces of choirs long gone, screams of those erased by autumn's certainty. Lyra staggered under the weight, the hollow inside her filling with other people's pain. Kael snarled, clutching his head. I don't want their ghosts in me. Juno wept, holding her shard tight. We can't shut them out. They're part of the song. Lyra fell to her knees. The hollow screamed with voices not hers, too many to hold. But she remembered the oath, fracture preserved, not erased. She whispered through the bond, voice shaking, don't fight them. Let them in. We'll carry them together. Carrying the dead. They opened the bond wide. Kael's rage gave the memories edges, turning chaos into something they could grip. Juno's faith soothed them, weaving grief into song instead of screams. Lyra's hollow spread wide, scarred space large enough to hold them without breaking. The voices settled, not gone but carried. The radiance fragments pulsed in unison, light knitting between them until the chamber blazed bright. The echoes sang, soft and steady. Memory endured. Fracture carried. The hollow sings. The gift of memory. From the radiance fragments drifted a shard, pale and translucent, glowing faint like glass filled with voices. It settled into Lyra's hand, its weight heavy not with matter, but with memory. Juno's voice was reverent. The echo shard, the gift of memory. Kael exhaled hard, shaking. Never thought I'd volunteer to carry 100 ghosts. But it feels lighter now, like they're finally being heard. Lyra held the echo shard close. It joined the ash, ember, oath, solar, and abyss shards, each pulse weaving into her hollow. Her chest ached, but no longer alone. The shadow in the lattice. But as the radiance light spread through the station, the shadows deepened. Autumn signatures bloomed at the edges of the system, not ships this time, but something larger, stranger. The lattice of the silencer gate bent faintly across the void, a ripple in reality itself. Its certainty pressed harder than ever, louder for carrying the voices of the dead. Memory is error. Error will be erased. The song will end. Lyra's hollow throbbed under the weight, but the echo shard pulsed back, carrying the voices of the dead, their song rising in defiance. She stood tall, voice steady. No, the song has only begun. The final ascent. The fifth radiance echoes still lingered in the bond as Raptor-One drifted into the dark between stars. Lyra sat at the yoke, her hollow pulsing with the weight of 5 shards: ash, ember, oath, solar, and echo. Each sang its note, their rhythms colliding, weaving, becoming something greater than one crew could carry. Juno leaned back, exhausted, her shard dim against her chest. Kael's hands were steady on his rifle, but his eyes were hollowed, worn down by too many battles fought back to back. The constellation glowed faint across the map, all 12 radiants pulsing in unison now. The crew had kindled 5. Others had been lit by Haven, by distant choirs, by voices they would never meet. The constellation's chord was complete. And with its completion came a truth: their part was ending. The constellation's voice. The ship's comms pulsed with resonance, but it wasn't Haven or Mara. It was something older, deeper, the constellation itself. You have carried fracture. You have kindled flame. You have borne ash, oath, silence, memory. Your song endures. But songs change. The braid must pass. Raptor-One must fly again. With new voices. Lyra's hollow clenched. For the first time in years, she felt fear, not of autumn, not of silence, but of letting go. The crew's farewell. Kael was the first to break the silence, his voice gruff. I hate to admit it, but it's right. We're burned thin. One more radiant, one more fight, and we break before the end. Juno smiled faintly, eyes wet. The song isn't ours anymore. We've carried it as far as we can. Lyra's hands trembled on the yoke. Her hollow thrummed, aching, but she nodded slowly. Then we passed the flame. Raptor-One was never just ours. It's a vessel, a voice. It carries whoever's willing to endure. They gathered in the cockpit one last time, laying their hands together over the console. The shards pulsed around them, their light intertwining one final time. The next crew. The air shimmered. The constellation opened, weaving threads of resonance into new forms. Figures appeared aboard Raptor-One. 3 new Voyagers, faces unfamiliar but eyes burning with the same determination. They stepped forward cautiously, reverent, young, unscarred, but ready. The constellation had chosen them. Kael handed his rifle to the broadest of the 3, smirking. Don't scratch her. She'll treat you right if you don't flinch. Juno pressed her shard into the hands of the quietest, her voice soft. Listen more than you speak. The constellation sings louder that way. Lyra unclasped her band, the shard of ash pulsing faintly against her skin. She handed it to the one who met her gaze unflinching. Carry the hollow. Don't try to fill it. Let it endure. The passing of the flame. The braid loosened. The bond that had held them together for so long thinned, then dissolved. The 3 friends stood in silence, watching as the new crew took their places at the yoke, the shard console, the gunnery seat. The ship hummed differently now, its song shifting into a new key. Lyra, Kael, and Juno stepped back, the constellation's light surrounding them. Their time with Raptor-One was over. But their song was not erased. It was memory, woven into the constellation itself. The ship's engines roared. The new crew took flight, the map glowing with threads of adventure yet untold. Epilogue, a new song. Lyra looked back once, her hollow steady, no longer a wound but a space filled with fire, silence, and memory. We carried it far enough, she whispered. Now it's theirs. Kael grinned faintly. Hope they like trouble. Juno wiped her tears, smiling soft. They'll make their own song. The constellation's voice echoed around them, gentle and vast. Every flame is carried. Every song is memory. Raptor-One flies on. The ship vanished into the stars, carrying a new crew toward new radiance, new worlds, new fractures, and new seasons of song.
This concludes Raptor-One Season 1. Join us in Season 2 with new crew members and new adventures. This has been a Bad Karma Drone production.